Alright, so we're out here on the porch again, and you know what that means. It's time to review the career of yet another obscure early internet personality, because for whatever reason, I just can't seem to avoid falling into these weird rabbit holes about these amazing people from the past. Tonight, we're going to answer a pretty interesting question. Who was the first e-girl? Now, you might answer Belle Delphine, who first marketed the trend and brought it to mainstream attention. Some of the OGs among you might say Boxy, but I, tonight, have a figure who predates Boxy by 10, 15, 20 years at least. We're talking about Kiki Stockhammer, spokeswoman for the VideoToaster and employee of Play.tv. Yes, we're talking about the technology evangelist herself. This is Kiki Stockhammer, the original e-girl. Buckle up, because you are in for a wild ride. So, originally I was just going to make a video about the VideoToaster because the impact the VideoToaster left on video editing, amateur film production, and the like really can't be understated. The Amiga was not only a fantastic piece of software, which in its day easily competed with the Macintosh, the VideoToaster is one of the most revolutionary pieces of software ever put out on the market. Now today you might take your video editing software for granted if you use something like Filmora or Adobe Editor, but back in the day you have to realize that the only real options for video distribution were to use raw, unedited footage straight from your camcorder, or go to a big TV station and have them edited with professional equipment. So the VideoToaster was a nice prosumer compromise with professional-looking video editing, but at an affordable price that most people could get at. It was only a couple $1,000s, and you essentially had an entire TV station in your home right on your personal computer. And for the early 1990s, this was revolutionary technology. If you see any videos from the 1990s, early to mid-1990s that is, they're probably edited on the VideoToaster. So in that way, the VideoToaster defined much of the look of the early 1990s.
Just a quick note here on how I'm defining the term e-girl for the purposes of this video. When I say e-girl, I don't mean the subculture that arose in the mid to late 2010s. I'm referring to a female online celebrity whose fame largely arises from their internet presence, not from any legacy media like TV, film, or music. Hope that clears things up going forward.
The spokeswoman for the VideoToaster was none other than Kiki Stockhammer, a vivacious redhead who, on her Wikipedia page, which is the first thing I read when I was diving down this whole rabbit hole, explained that one of her best talents was recounting the features of the product she was demonstrating in incredible detail. Like, she was a remarkable pitchwoman. And rest assured, I understand and appreciate the value of a good sales pitch. It's always been a part of the American frontier, especially with the snake oil salesman, Mr. Garrity and Dr. Stringfellow, of course, and Kiki Stockhammer was intimately connected and understood the technology she was advertising. According to her Wikipedia article, the reason she stood out among the market is because she really understood what she was talking about and was able to answer questions with remarkable agility. Kind of skill that would make the average salesman curl up in a ball into the fetal position and just give up. You could hurl an assault of questions at Miss Stockhammer and she would not flinch, rather, she would just answer your questions. It was then that I came across the website on patswain.com, remembering Kiki Stockhammer, and this instantly made me think, oh no, Miss Stockhammer's dead. Luckily, Miss Stockhammer isn't dead, but we'll get more into what she's doing in the present later on. For right now, I think it's important to read some contemporary accounts. For one, there's the original VideoToaster promo video, which explains a lot of the features that were available on the VideoToaster and features prominent celebrities of the time such as Star Trek The Next Generation's Will Wheaton and magician Penn Jillette, in addition to pro skateboarder Tony Hawk. It's a very cheesy 90s, very retro-looking video piece.
Toaster 4000 takes the power away from the network and gives it to the people. With Toaster 4000, we can make television better than the networks, and we don't have to answer to anyone.
I've never seen anything like that, ever. It was incredible. I knew I had to have them. They told me it would let you make videos just like the networks.
You buy the Toaster 4000, a video deck or two, tape is cheap, and the Toaster 4000 is cheap.
Primarily, the VideoToaster was marketed as an escape of sorts from the mundane, predictable, banal tripe of the 24-hour cable TV services, which everyone was sick of. So the VideoToaster comes in and it's like, hey, now you can make your own videos, shoot your own videos, edit your own videos, produce your own videos, make your own videos, burn them onto VHS, and you will completely revolutionize the future. That's the pitch the VideoToaster went with. Now, considering that it was $4,000 or so, which would be more in today's money, that offer might have been a little out of reach for the average person, but nonetheless, that was pretty dang cheap for editing software this slick. In the VideoToaster promo, Kiki herself has no lines, which is strange considering that her entire gimmick was that she could answer questions in rapid fire, you know, but I guess they just wanted to kind of test her pantomime abilities, so she just stands there and acts stuff out.
Luminance keyer. What does that do? The luminance keyer lets you in.
And there are several segments that I think are pretty funny and kind of demonstrate her acting abilities. She's very talented in front of the camera, which is something I can definitely look up to and admire.
I especially like the attention to detail that went into this fake album here, Kiki's Golden Hits. You have such classics as Switch Me With Your Best Shot, Cinnamon Cat Scratch Fever, Digiview to a Kill, Escape to Alcatraz, Right Justify My Love, and Evil Drome Woman. Man, if this was a real album, I'd probably pay for it. Move over, Pat Benatar, here comes Kiki.
Some of the transitions of the VideoToaster just featured Kiki's silhouette, so there's raw footage on YouTube of her just in complete shadow, just doing all these different poses and stuff for like half an hour, because back then, you know, instead of the Kobe or Filmora transitions, you might know, they had different ones. Like there's one where a football player runs across the screen for sports tapes, or a baseball player, and they were all in silhouette. And of course the Kiki transition is no different, except you have the raw footage, so it's just like 30 minutes of her and this photographer just bantering back and forth about exactly how the best transition could be achieved. It's kind of interesting.
How you doing?
My neck.
Yeah?
She soon left New Tech and went into her own company, Play TV, otherwise known as Play Incorporated. Now, I have here some contemporary accounts from that period. That said, Play.tv marketed itself as an even more revolutionary technology than the VideoToaster, in that it really was the first time video streaming was possible on the internet. And when the VideoToaster came out, obviously that wasn't the case. It was the age of VHS. But Play TV came out right around the time when people started thinking of the internet's capacity for video. From 1998. Here's an account from Roger B. Wyatt. Many of these articles were lifted from the website Remembering Kiki Stockhammer, which I think is pretty interesting. It has a lot of photos of Kiki, as well as these articles which are archived. So, thank you for that. For the past several years, one could always count on seeing Kiki Stockhammer, the Laurie Anderson of the trade show circuit, demoing Trinity at the Play Inc. booth. The company came together formed by refugees from the Amiga developer community, along with a healthy injection of refuseniks from NewTek, makers of the VideoToaster, that monument to the Amiga techno-imagination. The cool gal from Play has been showing the assembled multitudes Trinity, a video studio in a box. It has a live D1 production switcher, 3D DVE digital video effects, both non-linear and linear editing, a character generator, paint, animation, and compositing, virtual sets. That's sets, pal, not what you were thinking. Dual-channel D1 still stores, chroma keyer, and 2 time-based correctors. The virtual sets can have real-time shadows and reflections on surfaces. Trinity has the capability to wrap live video textures onto 3D ray-traced objects. When the on-camera talent walks past a shiny crystal glass decanter, 3D rendered of course, Trinity would insert the appropriate reflection in real time. It is a stunning effect. So of course what we're talking about there is early computer-generated imagery and video editing effects, which Kiki Stockhammer was obviously very enthusiastic about. You also hear in that account the tension between NewTek, company that developed the VideoToaster for Amiga, and Play Inc. Obviously they had a lot of bad blood between them. From April 14th, 1998, here's a statement directly from Play Inc. Hot on the heels of shipping the highly anticipated Trinity video production system, Play Incorporated rolled into Las Vegas with several surprises up its sleeve. Things got started on Sunday night as a standing room only crowd of 900 people packed a ballroom at Caesar's Palace. The event was kicked off with a shipping Trinity box being delivered, pallet and all, to the stage. Out popped Kiki Stockhammer, Play co-founder and chief technology evangelist, ready to unveil several new features to be added to the shipping Trinity in the coming weeks. The new features, which had been kept secret until the event, will be a free upgrade to all current Trinity owners. When they say that Kiki is a technology evangelist, what they're actually saying is that Kiki is just like incredibly ahead of the curve. So in that regard, you could say that Kiki is a precursor to Pokimane or Alinity or a number of the female figures of today. What might surprise you, and this is what surprised me too, is that 5 years before the creation of YouTube, before Twitch was even so much as a second thought, Kiki Stockhammer ran what is essentially a Twitch stream. That's right. It was called Kiki at Midnight, and in effect it was a late-night talk show hosted by Kiki Stockhammer, featuring several guests. The problem is that we don't have any footage of the remaining episodes. Now, I had reached out to Kiki for this video after a lengthy search for an address I could write to. I have yet to hear back from her. If I do, of course, I'll make it into a second video just with some interview questions between me and Kiki, but there is no footage of Kiki at Midnight online. All we have is the mysterious, enigmatic title screen. It really looks vaporwave as fuck. Of course, I had been searching around for episodes of Kiki at Midnight for quite a while, and then I found this gem on YouTube.
Where am I? In the village. What do you want? Information. Whose side are you on? That would be telling. We want information. Information. Information.
I know that went by kind of fast, so let's break down the absolute lunacy on display here. We got Kiki with weird teeth, Kiki wearing a fur coat, Kiki doing yoga in front of a green screen, Kiki kicking the Easter Bunny, whatever this is, Kiki with cards, Kiki the Vampire Queen, Kiki egging on a demon with a lightsaber, and Kiki looking cool as all get out. Seriously, someone needs to preserve this valuable piece of internet history.
That's only the trailer for it, so as of right now, Kiki at Midnight, one of the internet's oldest live broadcasts, is potentially lost media. If you think you know where you could get your hands on a copy, or like I said, if Kiki reaches out to me and is gracious enough to send me some copies on VHS, I'll be sure to let you know. But until then, Kiki at Midnight is an incredibly obscure piece of media, and I think it deserves some more attention on it, because it really is the first gosh dang e-girl stream. Proof of the old adage that nothing is ever really as revolutionary as it seems. 20 years ago, the exact same thing was happening on the internet that's happening right now on Twitch. Albeit to a lesser extent, of course, and I've read some articles that claim that the technology Play.tv used was a bit different from the technology Twitch uses, in that it involved a lot more legitimate television equipment. In that regard, it was more like a professionally run internet television station than a streaming service. Here's the mission statement from Play.tv's website, so you can get a pretty good idea of exactly what they were going for and why Kiki, fresh off the heels of the VideoToaster, being in all of the VideoToaster ads, would probably be pretty attracted to a revolutionary technology such as this, what with her being a technology evangelist and all. Welcome to Play.tv. In the largest shift since radio gave way to television, television is leaping onto the internet. The audience for high-bandwidth internet television is growing exponentially, and it's clear this is the single biggest opportunity in broadcasting since the creation of the original TV networks. Play TV is television for the next century, a century where today's 100 broadcast channels will quickly give way to 100,000 narrowcast channels, delivering highly relevant programming to each viewer. Imagine a traditional television network turned upside down and re-engineered for the internet. That network is Play TV, a new approach that offers compelling original programming to viewers, a medium for advertisers to reach focused audiences, and a way for program producers to touch a worldwide audience. Sounds pretty intense there, doesn't it? With a mission statement like that, you're probably wondering, hey, why haven't I ever heard of Play.tv? Well, for one, the technology it used, like I said, wasn't exactly accessible to the public. At the same time, it was going for a more gimmicky approach than the average public access TV station. It was aiming to be TV for the internet, without the convenience that websites like YouTube would offer about 5 years down the line. And of course, this was well before the advent of streaming services like Netflix, so the futuristic optimism of 100,000 individual narrowcast channels was slowly reduced to one giant monopoly controlled by a bunch of idiots who will toss money at low-quality garbage.
I relocated you guys far from Hawkins.
Nonetheless, this early 2000s optimistic outlook is strangely appealing to me, even if I prefer, of course, the individual convenience that VHS offers. I personally wouldn't mind if Play.tv became one of the largest broadcast companies. It'd definitely be preferable to Netflix. Of course, what Play TV was really aiming for would be the democratization of internet content, and I'd say the closest parallel is probably a website like YouTube, in that it offers complete freedom, for the most part, to individual broadcasters and content creators. Nonetheless, it's just fascinating to read these historical documents, right? Isn't it? Am I the only one? At the National Association of Television Production Executives Convention in New Orleans, television industry insiders flocked to Play.tv's booth to witness a compelling example of the convergence of television and the internet. The Chicago Tribune's Gary Dretzka, impressed with this new medium, summed up a prevalent feeling among the masses surrounding the Play TV booth in his post-NATPE wrap-up. The long-anticipated convergence of computer and broadcast technologies is no longer a matter of when, but where do we sign up? Dretzka's story focused heavily on Play TV, which live broadcast shows over the internet each day directly from the convention floor. Play TV's ratings may not equal those of ER, but such interactive series as Prime Directive and Kiki at Midnight can be seen around the world and are produced for a fraction of the cost of the lip gloss allowance on Friends. USA Today reporter Graham Jefferson also highlighted Play TV's presence in his NATPE follow-up column. He spoke to Play TV's Kiki Stockhammer, host of Kiki at Midnight. "This is a new medium," Kiki said. "For people who like to interact with their TV, with chats and instant messages, The internet is the place to be. Each day from the NATPE show, Kiki and popular actor and comedian Fred Willard hosted a special 90-minute internet broadcast available for viewing on both AENTV.com and www.playtv.com. Kiki and Fred interviewed several celebrity guests during shows, which were live broadcast over the internet each day from the convention. The broadcasts were an expanded edition of AENTV's entertainment news program, The Hollywood Reporter Minutes, which typically features breaking entertainment news stories, interviews, clips, and remote segments covering feature films, television shows, award shows, and film premieres. Kiki and Fred welcomed such venerable guests as Robert Stack, star of The Untouchables and Unsolved Mysteries, former James Bond star Roger Moore, comedian Louis Anderson, the beautiful stars from the new Baywatch Hawaii television series, and supermodel and former MTV VJ Daisy Fuentes. Other Play TV hosts who took their regular shows on the road to the Big Easy enjoyed chatting up celebrity guests on their live shows from NATPE as well. Both Revelstoke Jim and Will Wilkins had the pleasure of hosting The Price is Right's Rod Roddy on their shows. Revelstoke Jim was also pleased to welcome popular hand puppet Ed the Sock, a fixture on late-night TV in Revelstoke's native Canada. From February 2000, which obviously was a ways into Play TV's lifespan. Nonetheless, you still catch those hints of optimism. You know, Kiki Stockhammer's at the show. There's all this stuff that's completely lost media as far as I can tell. Like, there's no record of this stuff anywhere on the internet. There's just some interview out there between Kiki Stockhammer and the stars of Baywatch Hawaii, and I can't watch it. And that's a gosh darn shame. Not particularly because I'm interested in the stars of Baywatch Hawaii, but man, Kiki Stockhammer is a presence in front of a camera. I want to learn more. Here's another article. It's Egyptian theme week on the Kiki at Midnight show, and Kiki Stockhammer sits on a couch wearing a snakeskin safari hat. Behind her is a blue screen, but in the studio on camera the background is magically transformed into a Nile River setting. Her show, a freeform information and talk show, airs over the internet while it's filmed live in the studios of Play Inc. in Racho, Cordova. Her fans log on to the company's Play TV website, essentially an internet television network, and they interact with her, tossing out comments and questions that she answers on the air. The technology that drives Play TV with real-time internet streaming video has been developed by Play Inc., and it's now being licensed through a consortium Play.Inc. recently spun off. Play Streamlining Media Group wants to spread the use of internet video by making it affordable. We provide the tools to make shows on the internet, says Ben Yoder, marketing manager for Play Inc. Play's goal has been to democratize TV technology. The internet represents the last piece of the puzzle, which is distribution. When can you make your own TV show and where do you show it? Play Inc. is one of at least 3 regional companies that's trying to tap into a segment of the streaming video market on the internet. Another company, Grass Valley Group Inc., has developed technology that will digitize videotape for internet use, and it's working on developing a product that will also be able to produce and send out live video imaging onto the internet. A third company, eMonitoringSolutions.com, has developed technology that allows employers to view their shops while away from the scene via cameras that send the feed via the internet to the employer's browser. Streaming video is in a developmental stage on the internet. For most web surfers that use standard phone lines, much of the streaming video is so herky-jerky, stilted, and slow that it's difficult to watch. Fatter bandwidth users, such as those with DSL lines or cable modems, can watch it much easier, but the frame count is at its best 20 frames a second versus about 35 on television. So even with high-speed wiring, streaming video on the internet still isn't completely fluid. Anybody who wants to watch streaming video must also download software with which to view it. Most of the software, like Real Player and Microsoft Corp's Media Player, is available for downloading free on the internet. Also, the competition is growing rapidly in the industry, say market watchers. It's certainly a big and growing industry, says Dan Akiva, senior editor for Millimeter Magazine, a New York City-based publication focusing on video production. He says that Play Inc.'s and Grass Valley Group's products are among some of the more widely used ones in internet video production. Akiva also says that there's new software that attempts to solve the bandwidth problem by using compression technology, which can deliver much more watchable video. No figures were available on the size of the streaming video industry. Brian Ma, an analyst with International Data Corp in Boston, says that the market research firm is just starting to track the numbers in the streaming video industry. Most of the streaming media out there now, he says, is in radio and TV broadcast applications. That's from August 2000. You recognize a lot of interesting precursors there, right? The compression technology mentioned there is now used on YouTube. It is strange to think that just 22 years ago, it was virtually impossible to get a fluid image on your computer screen. We truly have come a long way. Nonetheless, Kiki at Midnight pressed on. This is the description of the show from Play TV's website. She's beautiful, she's high-tech, she's provocative, and now she is live on the web, because it is always midnight somewhere. That's the rationale behind the Kiki at Midnight show, that it's always midnight somewhere, so it doesn't matter when she broadcasts, because it's always midnight somewhere. A true symbol of the globalization that the early internet offered. Now, of course, you're starting to put the puzzle pieces together in your head, that Kiki at Midnight was essentially a primitive Twitch chat with as much interactivity as the average Twitch chat. You could send her comments, she could respond to the comments, it was a back and forth. Just imagine that in 2000. Like, I know this stuff sounds really low-tech, but I mean, just imagine being able to type in a box to the Kiki at Midnight show. Of course, we don't know exactly how the show worked because all the footage of it is completely lost, which is just one of the examples of lost media that really ought to be found, so hopefully someone out there has some VHS tapes of it or something. I'd love to get my hands on this show. It sounds fantastic. Here we have some descriptions of the varied programming that existed on Play TV. Play TV features about half a dozen different live shows a day, such as Two Guys on a Couch, which features, well, two guys on a couch talking about whatever they want to talk about, But Seriously with Brian Mallow, a talk show that mixes comedy and science, and the ever-popular Kiki at Midnight, where Play co-founder and evangelist Kiki Stockhammer puts on an Anything Goes show. According to a source at Play, there are plans to market Play TV as a new entertainment site, but they're now rethinking that strategy, calling the environment a little risky. That was in September of 2000. You're noticing a little bit of doubt coming out of Play TV there, because they're starting to realize that they might not have the funding necessary to realize their ultra-futuristic utopian dream of 100,000 narrowcast channels. Of course, you also see the similarities between the show Two Guys on a Couch and just a normal podcast these days, which is usually three guys on a couch, or three girls on a couch, or, you know, just someone sitting on a couch. Like I said, a lot of this material was only available through the Internet Archive, and we really have no way of recovering any of the video streams of Kiki at Midnight, given its live format. But I've done a lot of research into this subject, and I realized that, you know, Kiki, being a technology evangelist and all, was probably very concerned with, you know, just getting to the next thing as fast as possible. First, the spokeswoman for the VideoToaster, one of the most influential and revolutionary video editing softwares ever made, and then straight on to Play.tv with her show Kiki at Midnight. Admirable woman, I will say that. Here we have quite possibly the most revealing comment she made on the matter personally. I've been involved in the computer video business for 10 years, says Stockhammer, who hosts Kiki at Midnight. I'm an executive who has evolved into an entertainment personality, and I've been talking about the democratization of television for years. Last year, with the launch of our show on the www.play.com network, we were finally able to do that, and it's been tremendously exciting. On the one hand, I've had my executive hat on, and have been evangelizing about this cool new technology to people to make them understand how it can work for them. On the other hand, I'm living it by hosting my own show, which I also write. The fledgling medium, she asserts, is exciting because it's only now beginning to evolve into internet television. Many of these people here at NATPE want to know if they'll enjoy watching television from their computer. But that's really not where we're going, she continues. As a medium, television is going to be what it is and stay that way, but when you add the internet, it becomes interactive, global, and free. As technology changes and bandwidth increases, we'll be able to watch video that looks good. The reason my show is called Kiki at Midnight is that it's always midnight somewhere in the world, and my fans include bored students in Britain and sports writers from Brazil whose email has popped up live right in front of me during the show. Kiki at Midnight is unscripted, but like Jay Leno, she will do bits and get out of the studio, which, using Play technology, is about as big as most people's dining rooms. In one show, I was the griddle goddess, and the theme became pancakes. The amount of email blew the screen out, because everyone had a comment about how I was making them, the bubbly redhead recalled. We've had on modern witches and kids talking about Pokemon. Another thing we did was camp out at the Chinese theater in LA before the Star Trek prequel came out, and Keanu Reeves just happened to drive up on his motorcycle. If some of the homegrown shows on her network look as if they're regurgitations of television, she pleads with viewers to be patient. We're still inventing content in anticipation of what the new shows are going to look like, taking advantage of interactivity, allows Stockhammer, whose business card labels her a chief technology evangelist. We don't know what the new medium will look like, or even what it will be called. She seems to be the most level-headed in this scenario. She seems to allow for a lot of possibilities and also acknowledges that the bandwidth is going to increase. In that regard, I would say Kiki has a pretty good handle on the future.
A little correction in the edit here. I thought Kiki had a pretty good handle on the future until I saw this commercial for something Play called the Mind Phone, which apparently is a sort of telepathy device, which as far as I know wasn't remotely feasible in the 90s and still isn't even remotely feasible. So I don't know if Kiki was just thinking incredibly far ahead of the curve, or if everyone in the Play office was tripping balls or what, but this commercial is pretty gosh dang funny nonetheless, and really is a 90s gem.
From the scientists at Play, it's a way to open your thoughts and share your dreams, a way to explore a new universe together, to touch another mind, and for the first time, truly understand.
I sense the delicate nature of your position. I can assure you, it won't be about
Mind phone. Now we can understand each other.
Of course, you get a lot of period-specific references from back then. I can only assume the Star Trek prequel she's referring to would be Star Trek Enterprise, which I've done a video on. That show is hot garbage. Kiki herself had a very interesting cameo on the Star Trek ripoff Babylon 5, where she appeared in front of a computer for a couple seconds, and everyone just totally lost their shit. They were like, oh my gosh, it's the VideoToaster lady on Babylon 5? I can't believe this. Well, believe it. She was on Babylon 5, and that was pretty much her 5 seconds of fame. It's a real shame that most of the footage, if not all of the footage, from Kiki at Midnight is lost forever. We may never get to see Kiki Stockhammer as the griddle goddess. What even is a griddle goddess? I guess she's dressed up like a griddle or something. Nonetheless, you can definitely see the admirable effort that goes into a venture like this and the overwhelming confidence that Kiki and the rest of the Play.tv staff had. A lot of that optimism doubtless was carried over from the Amiga, which, though pretty much defunct at that point, was still a beacon of technological progress, of video to the max. And Kiki obviously wanted a slice of that pie. I have to say this is one of the most interesting stories I've ever stumbled upon, because it really puts into perspective the mindset of the early 2000s and makes them seem both incredibly foreign and incredibly familiar. On the one hand, we have people who can't even comprehend something like fluid video on the internet, and Kiki has to be like, chill out, in a couple years it'll be fine and you can watch videos on the internet, which of course ultimately came true with the rise of sites like YouTube and Vimeo. On the other hand, of course, we have a show that seems so far ahead of its time that it's like Kiki Stockhammer is a flipping time traveler from today who just happened to find herself in the early 2000s broadcasting this show over the internet where people can submit flipping comments to her? That's pretty crazy when you really think about it. I'm gosh dang flipping in my mind right here, because this is just crazy stuff.
Well, basically it's the nerd in us.
As you might expect, and has been hinted at a couple times in this video, a lot of people just thought Kiki was hot. They just thought she was another pretty face. There's an Urban Dictionary definition for her here on the internet, which just says, wow, Kiki Stockhammer sure is hot. But in this video I think it's important to bring to light another facet of Kiki's fascinating personality, which is that she isn't just hot. She is really ahead of the curve when it comes to technology. After the bankruptcy of Play.tv, she rejoined NewTek, became an employee there again, and there's a couple videos of her from around 2010 where she's advertising new NewTek technology. From what I can tell, in 2000, 2012, she really hadn't lost the spirit. The vigor she brought to Play TV, she brought back to NewTek with just as much talent, just as much incision, just as much delivery. And as always, her passion and gimmick as she stood in the conferences and explained the technology to people, she really didn't lose that.
I definitely love the control surface. It makes switching so fast and easy. All right, well, now let's take a look at some of the newest capabilities built into the TriCaster 850 Extreme.
It's insanely admirable to think that, you know, she was just so into this stuff that she just was able to explain it for like 20 years straight. First for NewTek, then for Play.tv, then that went under, so she went back to NewTek. That's kind of wild. Now, you might paint NewTek out as the bad guys in this scenario because they technically ran Play TV into the ground. You know, they were the competition. But I think it's important to keep in mind that Kiki is a technology evangelist, and she really will espouse whatever technology she believes in. And when Kiki says that she believes in the potential of a given technology, I believe her, even if, as in some cases such as Play TV, it didn't totally pan out. I completely trust that she had confidence in what she was selling. And as a spokeswoman or spokesman or spokesperson, that's one of the most important attributes you can bring to the table, confidence in your own product. Kiki Stockhammer seems like a real swell gal. Hopefully she responds to my inquiry so I can make a second part where I ask her some questions via interview. That'd be very interesting. As much as I hate to admit it, a lot of millennials and Gen Z are a bunch of morons who just, you know, are into Belle Delphine. And I think it's time we give some credit to the actual innovators and pioneers of the industry, such as Kiki Stockhammer, who not only did everything that someone like Pokimane would do 20 years down the road, she's also just an incredibly charismatic presenter with a lot of, you know, acting nuance and capability. And I think the one thing that separated her from a lot of the other faces on commercials at the time was that she was connected with what she was selling. She wasn't Anthony Sullivan, she wasn't Vince, she wasn't Billy Mays. You know, Billy Mays doesn't own Mighty Putty, but Kiki Stockhammer, gosh dang, had a stake in Play.tv. She was there on the front lines, and Kiki with Midnight, and she was there on the front lines with the VideoToaster before that. You might be wondering, what's the current chapter in Kiki's life? What's Kiki up to now? Well, I'm glad you asked. Kiki is currently part of a Star Trek tribute band called Warp 11, which looks pretty interesting. It looks predictable too, of course, and very cheesy, and all their songs kind of sound the same, which is to be expected with Star Trek tribute bands. There's only so many songs you can write about Star Trek, but then again, haven't we all been part of a Star Trek tribute band at one point or another?
I've got so very sad, and that's why I'm singing this song.
Fascinating. Kiki Stockhammer is not only an admirable figure, she's also remembered by a lot of people who were around during her stint in Play.tv and in the VideoToaster promos. From what I can tell, she does have a pretty strong small cult following. But I think it's time that her historical relevance is kind of brought up again, because she really is like one of the pioneers of the internet, on the cutting edge. And I think that's always something to be respected and admired and brought up and covered out here on the porch at night, just me alone reading from old documents, because I really think history is worth taking a look at, and oftentimes it can be far more interesting than you might allow it at first glance if you just dig into the details. We've talked about a whole lot here tonight, from the VideoToaster to Play.tv to Warp 11, 3 separate chapters of Kiki's career. Through it all, Kiki Stockhammer has remained an incisive, very insightful, very interesting woman, headstrong, going full on into the fray. A lot of people call her the original geek goddess, but I think it's important to recognize her as what she is, the original eagle.